So first off, I want to go over Brian Gutekunst in his press conference, and I'd say there is maybe 5-6 different things he said that were very, very interesting, very important to note. And to start off, we'll discuss what he shared about David Bakhtiari. So there's, of course, been these, at least rumors-ish kind of flying around about the Jets wanting to trade for Bakhtiari. As we've said, who knows if it's true or not. Do they actually want that? And Brian Gutekunst cleared it up, at least from the Packers side today. And he said, first of all, we are not going to trade David. So he said, let's just get that out of the way, because I know there's been a little bit of chatter about that. That's not going to happen. So Brian Gutekunst making the wise decision. I don't think it's a good decision to trade Bakhtiari. We got to protect Jordan Love's blind side. We would only save $1.5 million in cap space in 2023. So it really doesn't make sense unless the Jets made a crazy offer, which I don't know why they would, offer like a first or second round pick for an aging player. So Brian Gutekunst cleared that up to start off. Then here we have Brian Gutekunst discussing tomorrow night about Jordan Love and wanting these young guys to play together. And he said this: tomorrow night will be another really good step for him, Jordan Love, which sounds like Love will be playing. Yesterday we saw Matt LaFleur say that, he wasn't really sure or he was asked a question by Rob Domofsky about whether Love would play basically this week or the next week, and he said, I don't know yet. So I was wondering if maybe the Packers weren't going to play Love, which I thought wouldn't make sense. I think we got to play Love in each preseason game. And Brian Gutekunst seems to have that same idea. So let me read this quote here, and I got lots of these quotes from his press conference, but also shared by Cassidy Hill at PackersNews.com. And so here is what Brian Gutekunst had to say. He said, I think it's important for our offense to play together. A lot of it is just to see things over and over. You just kind of develop the instincts and calluses to know what you can and can't do. So basically wanting Love to be able to, have more experience out there, test his throws, what can he and can't he do, what should he and shouldn't he do. So it's not just him. It's our entire offense together. We got a lot of young guys that are seeing some things for the very first time. It's not always comfortable, especially for me. You want to keep everybody healthy, get them to that first game, but I think it's necessary. So that's the risk you run of playing these guys in the preseason. Obviously, a guy could get injured. But I think when you look at Jordan Love, when you look at the Packers with this young roster they have, if Love plays in both of these games, he's going to be much more prepared for that game against the Bears, and I think the Packers will hopefully be able to, get through some different issues in these preseason games that don't show up in week 1 against the Bears. And I think we all know that this is going to be a process with Love. I think the Packers front office knows that there's going to be lots of ups and downs with a super, super young team that's very inexperienced as these guys get a hang of things. And so obviously, the more Love can play in the preseason, the more these young receivers, tight ends can play in the preseason, the better. And then here's a tweet I want to share from Ryan Wood. He said, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst on Jordan Love. I think the thing I've been really pleased with is his command, his confidence back there in the things he's doing, and the way he's leading our football team. So Brian Gutekunst sounds happy with what Love has done so far and is excited to see what he can do coming in tomorrow night. Now here, moving to the next thing. So yesterday, if you guys were on the live stream, we talked about the Devondre Campbell news that came out yesterday from Matt Schneidman, that apparently Schneidman saw a boot and a scooter next to Devondre Campbell's locker, which had me slightly concerned, thinking, okay, why would there be a boot there if this wasn't a pretty serious injury? But today, Brian Gutekunst cleared it up, and it sounds like it's not too big of a deal. Here's his quote. It's not something that's going to be very long. It's not a long-term thing. He's a seasoned pro, so I don't think this will hold him back too much. And he also mentioned that it seems like he should be ready week 1. So luckily, it looks like the injury isn't super, super serious, which is great because he is a big, big piece of this Packers defense. And when he's playing at a high level, this Packers defense is much better. He's so good against the run and his tackling ability. And I think the Packers missed him last year when he went down with an injury for a few games. And so it looks like he should be back for week 1. So hopefully that will be the case. And then one other thing, if there's lots of position battles going on right now in Green Bay, and I'd say the biggest one, especially when it comes to who's actually going to be starting, is this safety room. There's so much uncertainty here. And Gutekunst himself today said, the safety battle is not settled. That's basically paraphrasing him. And so it's not shocking that this hasn't really worked itself out. It's not like two guys have really risen to the top. I think the Packers were hoping that would happen. But so far, it has not been the case. Of course, this offseason, the Packers bring in Jonathan Owens, who did start for the Texans. But he wasn't very good last year. He had a 48.3 PFF grade, and the Packers paid him $1 million. So clearly, he, at least last year, wasn't a great safety. If he was great, the Packers would have had to pay him more than $1 million. And so it was very much a bargain move to sort of see, okay, can we get something from this guy who did start? But so far, it seems like he hasn't really risen to the top. And then you also look at the other addition, signing 49ers player Tarvarius Moore, also for $1 million, which basically shows these two guys they brought in, it's not like they're top-tier safety talent, because it would have cost a lot more than $1 million. And so neither of these guys have really solidified themselves as the guy next to Savage. And it really does sound like Savage 100% is going to be a lock here as a starter, even though he's been pretty shaky the past couple seasons. Joe Barry talked in his press conference today about how Savage is like the leader in the room, the veteran in the room. And I do think when you look at this safety position, this is definitely the weak link of the Packers defense. And if there's going to be issues, I think it's going to be with this safety position, just because of these guys who look like they're going to be starting have struggled the past couple of years and haven't been like very talented safeties. So hopefully we see some increased play there. And I also am curious to see, can a guy like Anthony Johnson, who was drafted in the 7th round, can he come in here this preseason game and make some plays and potentially push himself up the roster? Because I think that with him, you don't exactly know what he has. And so hopefully we can see Johnson take a step forward and maybe push himself ahead of some of these guys. Who knows? Right now in practice, it hasn't really been that way. Tarvarius Moore and Jonathan Owens have been sort of switching back and forth as the opposing starting safety next to Savage. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. And then, of course, now we're going to talk about Anders Carlson. Brian Gutekunst doesn't sound too worried about Anders Carlson. And he said, "We believe in him. We think he's got a lot of talent. He's done some really good things since he's been here. You guys have seen his leg strength and his power. I really like how the ball elevates off of his foot, but got to find a way to get to a more consistent level." He also mentioned that the Packers are giving him a long leash. They're going to allow him to hopefully get over these mistakes he's making. And here's the thing about this. If Anders Carlson had been like a very, very accurate kicker in college, then I'd be slightly less concerned, because I'd say, okay, maybe it's just his time here as a first-year player. Maybe he's just getting through these rookie issues. But the thing is, he wasn't super accurate in college. I think he had around a 71% field goal percentage made, which would be one of the worst in the NFL. And so it's just unfortunate because he did struggle in college. The Packers clearly believe that they could fix those issues. And the question is, can they, or is this just going to be what he's going to be? And I hope it's not the case. I hope he can be coached up and become a solid kicker. But right now it sounds like the Packers are going to give him time to sort of work through these issues.